Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Wilmette Candidate Forum for the Wilmette Park District. I am Nancy Hoying, co-president of the Wilmette League. I would like to thank our Voter Services co-chairs, Trish Nealon and Ann Sullivan, for their tremendous effort for organizing this forum today. The League of Women Voters is nonpartisan. It does not endorse candidates or parties. Our mission is to ensure that all eligible voters have the opportunity and information to exercise their right to vote. Civil public discourse is an integral part of our political system. Public discussion strengthens our democratic process, so we thank the candidates and the audience for participating today. The format and the rules for this forum were previously agreed to by the candidates, have been posted outside, and are available in the handout. The forum is being filmed and will appear live on Wilmette's Government Access channel. It will also be available on the Village of Wilmette's website, and the League will carry a link to the program on our website as well. Our League's website is our 2019 election guide, where you can find a lot of information about the candidates, including a downloadable version of the voter guide. Please also remember to come back today at 12:30 right here for an information meet and greet with this year's candidates for our non-contested elections, the District 39, District 203 school boards, and Wilmette Public Library. Our moderator today is Karen Rebar from the League of Women Voters of Arlington Heights. Karen does not reside in Wilmette per League guidelines. Thank you.
Good morning, candidates and audience. I'm Karen Rebar, your moderator for today. All the candidates have agreed to abide by the ground rules provided by the League of Women Voters. They are as follows. Candidates have drawn numbers to determine speaking order. I will rotate this order during the forum for questions. Closing statements will be given in the reverse order of the opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement, and next, each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to questions. Closing statements will be up to a minute. League members will act as timers. They are right down here. And they will give a 30-second and 1-minute warning. At the stop sign, please quickly complete your sentence. Audience questions will be written on index cards provided by the League. And are the League card holders out there? Raise your cards. So, audience, you can see and get the index cards from them. Questions must be directed to all candidates, and questions will be reviewed for clarity, appropriateness, and to avoid duplication. Candidates have been asked not to interrupt one another, and I will repeat a question if you ask me. Audience, please turn off all your electronic devices. I know you think you did, but some of you didn't. The forum will be taped for League of Women Voters use in the education of the public, and the candidates have agreed to this. Please hold all applause until the end, and please do not demonstrate in any way or to show support or non-support of a candidate. There is space outside of this room for candidates to speak with you after the forum, and campaign literature will be available on the tables in the lobby. Okay, let's begin with the Wilmette Park District Board of Commissioners. There are 5 candidates running for 4 open seats of 4-year terms, so vote for 4 of the candidates. Chad Chaston was not able to attend today, and the other candidates are on the podium here. So we will start with our opening statements of 2 minutes. So, Mr. Murdoch, would you please begin?
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. It's a great opportunity for members of our community to get to know the candidates and understand our views. I'd also like to thank each of you here today for investing your time in the process. My name is Mike Murdoch, and I was a Park Board Commissioner from 2009 until 2013. In 2009, when I last spoke at this forum, I explained that I had young children. We were very active in the Park District and Park District programs. I think I had coached over 20 different soccer and basketball teams with the Park District at that point. At the time, none of the commissioners who were currently serving had young children, and I thought that that was an important viewpoint, and I thought it was an important perspective that I thought I could share. I think it's still critically important, so I'm pleased that Todd or Julia or both will serve on this board in the next term and represent that important perspective. But I hope I can offer an experience and an historical understanding of the Park District that none of my opponents can offer. I served during the last recession, and if elected, most likely we will serve it during the next recession as well. I've worked through controversial proposals such as the golf course reconstruction, the Centennial Cell Tower proposal, and the Thornwood Park lights, among other issues. I think this experience will be valuable, especially if any or all of the 3 current incumbents choose not to run during the next election cycle. I also have a strong understanding of Park District financials, including the somewhat quirky way we allocate administrative and capital expenditures across areas. This will be even more critical as we consider capital expenditures such as the Gilson Park roads and sewer projects that we'll probably have to do during the next 4 years in an environment of limited resources, given the way that we chose to fund the lakefront construction currently. I'm fiscally conservative, as evidenced by the fact that 3 times I voted not to increase the levy, but I'm also firmly committed to great parks and great programs. I want to ensure that the district has ample resources to maintain our high standards. I don't believe the 2 are mutually exclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Clark?
Okay, yes. Good morning. Thank you also, League of Women Voters, for holding this forum today. My name is Cecilia Clark. I have lived in Wilmette for over 26 years, and I have raised 4 children here. We have been heavy users of the Park Districts and its program offerings. I believe that our parks are a treasure, and they contribute significantly to our quality of life here in Wilmette. My goal is to use my skills to ensure that the Park District continues to operate from a strong financial position and that it continues to provide program offerings of value to all Wilmette residents. We are in the enviable position of having a Park District that is financially strong and is a vibrant operation. Over 2/3 of the Park District's annual operating budget is provided by user fees, with less than 1/3 coming from property taxes. In the next 2 years, the Park District's portion of the property tax bill will drop to just about 4%. But despite that, our facilities are being updated. We have new playground equipment, and we're all looking forward to a new beach house and parking lot at Gilson Park this summer. In the coming year, one of the tasks that will be before the Park District Board is the coordination with the village on stormwater remediation. This is of great importance to Wilmette residents, and I look forward to partnering with the village to ensure that the installation of the underground stormwater retention tanks will not be detrimental to the use and character of the parks involved. I have a law degree from Georgetown University, and I practiced insurance coverage and reinsurance law for 13 years. After that, I was an active volunteer for many years in District 39. I have served on the PTO executive boards at Wilmette Community Nursery School, at Highcrest, at Wilmette Junior High School, and the village-wide PTO. I was responsible for the membership directory as well as after-school clubs at Central School, Highcrest, and Wilmette Junior High. I have a lot of community experience in that. So I believe my experiences as a lawyer, as a volunteer, as a parent, and as a park user have given me the skills and interest to sustain and improve our Park District facilities and services for our entire community.
Thank you. Mr. Schisler.
Hi. Thanks so much for coming out and participating in this today. I'm glad that I have the chance to participate in this. 6 months ago, I never would have thought that I was going to run for park commissioner. And a good friend approached me and talked it over with my wife, and it just made sense for me. It made sense because I'm a realtor. I understand how important having good parks are, how good schools. Those are 2 things that were real big draws for us to move here in the first place. I have the flexibility to contribute and schedule to do the meetings and do the homework that's needed. I've already been very active with the PTA at Central. I help lead my daughter's Girl Scout troop. I have 2 young girls, 4th grade and 1st grade. So having strong parks is really important to me. This, in my mind, is just one more way that I can serve, and it's one more way that we can really ensure that we have a strong, vibrant community here in Wilmette.
Thank you. Ms. Goebel?
Good morning. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this opportunity to introduce myself and to meet all of the candidates today. I want to also thank my fellow candidates, and it has been a wonderful civil experience to get to know one another and learn about the issues of the community. My name is Julia Goebel. I am a resident for 4 years, and over the last years I've had an opportunity to use so many of the wonderful facilities we have and the parks. when my husband Ben and I moved here, we looked to the Park District to be one of the ways we would introduce ourselves and connect to the community. Like a lot of people, we came for the schools and we stay for the parks and the beach and the incredible neighbors that we've met. Through my son Nick and my daughter Sophie, we had an opportunity to join flag football and to participate in soccer at community playfields like so many people. And from there, we continued to be impressed with the amenities of the Park District. I've had an opportunity to live a few other places, and so I've had the perspective of what a Park District can offer. And in that, I am continually impressed by the way that and the sincerity with which our Park District operates, the commitment to continuous improvement, and I would love to be a part of that in the coming 4 years. From a personal perspective, I'm obviously a mom. I'm a marketer by training, and I manage our household. In particular, I have the good fortune of getting to know all of the things that are available through the park, and I hope to serve as a leader that can help reflect the needs of the community as it continues to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll begin with questions, and Ms. Clark will begin with you. And the topic of the first question is capital improvement,
yes.
And it's a long question.
Okay.
And here it is. Do you agree with the priorities set forth in the 5-year capital improvement plan that was part of the Park District's fiscal year 2019 budget? Do you agree with the current process for prioritizing Park District capital improvements? Explain.
Yeah, you picked me up. I will start that I do think that the Park District has put a great deal of consideration into how to prioritize it. A couple of years ago, a referendum that would have raised funds and addressed a large amount of capital expenditure of infrastructure work was defeated. So that now that the Park District now has to, this is still work that needs to be done. Clearly the priority at that point was on the beach house, and we are having a beach house, but there is other work that still needs to be accomplished with infrastructure, and we have a number of facilities that are starting to age out and will need work as we continue. So that the Park District has given a great deal of consideration how best to achieve this. And the thing is, these works will need to be done, but they'll have to be spread out over time. So yes, I agree that this is work that will need to be done, and that it has been approached in the way most likely to be successful over the next 5 years.
Thank you. Mr. Schisler.
In general, when in the campaign process and meeting people and getting signatures to get on the ballot, one of the things that I've heard almost universally is, God, you know what, I love our Park District. Gosh, you know, we have such a strong Park District. I think that reflects where the priorities have traditionally gone historically with our Park District. I couldn't tell you every single expenditure that was made, and didn't have the opportunity to vote on it and this type of thing, but in general, I think we're going in a pretty good direction. I think that there's so many different financial considerations that take place in every single meeting. New technology comes. In fact, you know, just today we're talking about the water bottle fillers, and do you put those in your facilities? And well, that wasn't even around 10 years ago. So I think that the real important thing is just to be thoughtful and to make sure that we're spending money wisely and not just signing off on stuff, or a blank check for stuff without investigating on it.
Thank you. Ms. Goebel?
Yes, you know, in preparing myself both for the consideration of running as a candidate but also for this conversation, the capital improvement plan is one of the most significant things that the trustees, the commissioners of the Park District must review and understand. Yeah. And in particular, the process that the board took in this latest round was rigorous, it was thoughtful, and it reflected the input of the community. That said, there's always more opportunity to ensure that the community understands what is being considered. And so when I've participated in major capital planning or budget decisions, both in my role as a marketer at a publicly traded company and now at a privately held company, we are thoughtful about what it needs to include. We plan for the contingencies that always occur. There are always going to be new opportunities that arise to invest, and also the unexpected things that happen, as we all know, when there is unexpected weather or erosion at Langdon Beach, and we need to consider for the future. But at the same time, I think the public input is so important, and so I would encourage, if elected, a more involved survey of public opinion. Certainly then we can ensure that the needs of the community are reflected in the capital improvement plan going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Murdoch.
Thank you. In some ways, the 5-year plan is a bit of a misnomer because while the Park District does look out 5 years, it also takes a look at all of its assets, all of the useful life of all those assets, and the planning is going on well beyond the 5 years. When I was on the board before, I thought we did an excellent job of managing our capital spending. I think that has continued. I am a little bit concerned that as we take a look over the next few years when we address particularly Gilson, but some of the other issues like the leaking pond at the Nature Center, making sure that we do have enough resources to address them in a timely fashion. I'm confident that we will be able to address the critical needs, but obviously when we take a look at Gilson, it's the crown jewel of Wilmette, and we were not able to address all of the Gilson issues, really just dealing with the lakefront construction during what's going on currently. So I want to make sure that we do that, we do it right, we do it once, and we fix it for a generation. Personally, I think I would have looked to fund that. I would have tried to fund that differently. I'm a little bit concerned that we use so much of our debt service extension base over the next 5 years to create some of those funds. I personally would have preferred that we go back to referendum again. I think when we make these major expenditures, we should ask the voters for permission. I mean, obviously that didn't go well a few years back, but I think the plan that the commissioners developed this time around was excellent. I think it would have passed and it would have given us more flexibility moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Mr. Schisler, and the topic is the Wilmette Golf Club. And the question is, what ideas do you have for addressing revenue shortfalls at the Wilmette Golf Club?
I think that a lot of people don't even know it exists. If you're not a golfer, I mean, my wife didn't know it existed. We have one of the most beautiful facilities. I'm so impressed with it. I would love to maybe have more activities over there. Maybe have some sort of social activities, comedy nights, this type of thing. Love to market it better. Love to market the restaurant better. Not that it has been bad or that someone's done a bad job, but I think that it needs to, you have something beautiful, let's shout about it. And my hope is that through those other, avenues, through the restaurant, through other activities, people utilize the actual golf course more, and that'll be on their mind instead of going to one of the other facilities in the area.
Thank you. Ms. Goebel?
You know, golf is something that's near and dear to my heart. When I was a child and learned to golf, I played golf at the Potawatomi Park, which is along the Fox River in St. Charles. It is a little jewel of a 9-hole course, and it was my home base as I began to be a golfer. I had a good fortune of playing high school golf at St. Charles High School, and that was when I was first introduced to New Trier. It was a school I had never heard of as a 14-year-old, but let me tell you that we got to know each other well in the playoffs. At that time, it was a fierce competitor, and of course now I'm here, and I'm excited my children will go there. When I walked on the golf team at University of Missouri, I began to spend even more time at golf courses, and I learned so much about what is involved in the maintenance and care of a course that you play every day. At our course, first of all, it's the most western point in the Park District, and it's also, as Todd mentioned, it's a jewel. It's a nice course. It has a wonderful facility, and it's one we can use even more. In particular, the installation of the new concession is a upgrade, and I think is a wonderful restaurant everyone should check out. Secondly, I've been to 50th birthday parties there. It's a facility that can be used more widely. in that regard. And third, the golf shop revenue is an opportunity that we can use through better merchandising, perhaps, and that will continue to bring in the traffic that the golf course so desperately needs to reinvest and maintain the facility.
Thank you. Mr. Murdoch.
Julia mentioned where she learned how to golf. I actually learned how to golf on the Peter Jans course. Long time ago. The golf course is a tremendous community asset. It does struggle financially to some extent. I think we're all aware that the golf rounds nationally have been down, so it is obviously a source of concern. But it's a tremendous resource for us, and we need to find ways to continue to grow the base, to get more people golfing, and to find other revenue sources. I think some of the other candidates reference some excellent ways to do that. But the other thing to keep in mind is that over time there will be fewer golf courses in our community, fewer public golf courses in our community. So it's really in some ways a war of attrition for us. We need to make sure that we're one of the last ones standing. We're extremely well positioned from a location standpoint for people coming out of the city. We're the first exit off the highway, really. And so over time, I think we will win that battle. So we just need to find ways to manage as best we can through that period of time. We should recognize that the course hasn't made its capital transfers for a number of years. It hasn't made its full administrative transfers. When I was on the board previously, we actually reduced the amount of the capital transfers we expected of the golf course to kind of ease some of that financial pressure. So again, from my perspective, the golf course is a tremendous community asset. We should do whatever we can short term to try to drive some additional revenue, but it's really a long game we're playing with the golf course. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Clark?
Yes, when I first moved here, and I have to, that the golf course seemed to be higher visibility in the town, and that there was, in fact, the Sunday brunch was generally was advertised, and many people went to it. It was really a very nice experience. We used to go with our family as well. So I think that the issues right now with the golf course are, to some extent, that it does need somewhat of a higher ability and additional marketing to make it aware to that. I also think one of the kind of the issues like I've had with my children going through is that once you reach around 8th grade, early 9th grade, there aren't as many programming opportunities, and I believe the golf course probably could provide a avenue toward programming for some of the younger teens, and that in terms of and I know they do offer lessons, but increasing the visibility of lessons. So I think there are options for increasing revenue at the golf course that will need to be looked into further in coming years. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Goebel, you'll be the next one to begin a question, and the topic is the beaches and Gilson Park. And it's kind of an open-ended question. The question is, please comment on the state of Gilson Park and the construction at the beach.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. So I think many of us can agree that Gilson is one of the reasons we're here. The proximity to the lake is fabulous, and when we considered where to move to raise our children, we wanted to take advantage of the lake and its amenities. It was, I think, 15 degrees the first day we visited Wilmette and walked along the beach. So we've enjoyed the beach in all seasons. In particular, the construction of the new beach house is very exciting. The process that the board took in order to build the beach house certainly had its ups and downs. One thing I want to highlight is that in determining what the program should include, a public survey was conducted, and over 18% of the community participated. And that was not only statistically significant, but it was able to guide the decisions of the board, and I think that's crucially important. Is it complete, and will we have the end-all, be-all beach when we are done? Probably not. This is much like owning a home. You are never done. And our new beach house will be a fabulous addition, and I think a destination going forward. The construction is on schedule. If you've had an opportunity to go lately, you can see that the building is taking shape, and it is certainly a topic of conversation around the community. We also have the face of environmental changes. If you've visited Langdon over the last several years, you've noticed that this beach has changed through lake erosion naturally, and there's an opportunity to evaluate what we can do to live within the natural course, but also ensure that it is usable for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murdoch.
As I said earlier, Gilson is our crown jewel, unambiguously. It is a tremendous factor why many of us live here. It's a phenomenal park. It's a phenomenal facility. We were desperately in need. There was a desperate need to address the failing infrastructure at the beach house, those facilities. I'm very pleased with the way that the park board did address that and was able to complete that reconstruction. It'll be open here shortly. But there are a number of other concerns at Gilson. If you walk around there, if you drive around there, the roads are failing, the sewers are failing. We are going to have to address them, and you have to address them the right way. I do have a construction background, and this isn't the kind of thing that you can do piecemeal. It would be far more expensive to do that way. In addition, you take a look at the picnic areas and the rest. Gilson is phenomenal the way it is, but it could be so much more. And I hope that we, as a group, will make sure that we can find the resources to kind of help it reach its potential. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Clark?
Yes. I am a visitor to Gilson Park nearly every day. I have a dog, and I am at the dog beach throughout the weather. Rain, well, maybe not rain, but snow. Up down to 11 degrees, I will be down there. So I see Gilson in all types of conditions. It does need work on the infrastructure. As I said, the roads are in poor shape. I'm also always very concerned because there are pedestrians and vehicle traffic sharing the same roads. So that has always been concerning me. Some cars come down very, very fast, and there are always people walking, and some people walking there. So I'm so happy that there is a new beach house. As I said, with my 4 children, it was always difficult coming down there and using the older facility. So that will be something really to look forward to. And I will also if you go down there, you can also see there's a live stream of construction on the Park District's website if you ever want to look and see where it is. So I think there is additional work, part of which can also do with some of the landscaping to address some of the concerns with stormwater that to bring in more native plantings there that can help and bring in additional wildlife, and as well as from a aesthetic point make it just a very beautiful destination. It is still a beautiful destination, but it can be even more so as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schisler.
The first story that pops into my head is going there with my kids, and my 5-year-old would refuse to go to the bathroom because the bathrooms were gross. And she used to say, "Daddy, I just went in the lake instead, and so sorry." But I couldn't be upset because they were gross. And I'm super thankful for the new facilities. I'm super thankful for someone working through the long process to push a project through that will hopefully improve our beach. It's a continuous journey, though, and there's other improvements that will still need to be made. And hopefully my daughter will want to use the bathroom at the new facility. So.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Mr. Murdoch, and the topic is the various users of the parks. And the question is, how do you best balance the interests of various groups of users? Active, passive, old, young, those who live near the parks, and those who don't?
That's a mouthful. Great question. Well, I think how we do that is we have different parks and different facilities for different groups. You take a look at East Wilmette up on the bluff at Gilson. There's a bird sanctuary that the Wilmette Foundation was helpful in working with the Park District to put together. Malincrod is unbelievably beautiful, and the K Nature Center for folks who are looking for passive uses. And by the way, as Cecilia had said, just walking along the lakefront is wonderful. At the same time, as I said at the beginning, my kids all went through all of the sports programs and the Park District programs, and members from outside our community come in and use those programs because we run them so well. And in doing so, they actually pay premiums, which help us financially keep our levy down, our taxes down, and also provide better and better services for us. So I think the answer in a nutshell is that we have a lot of different opportunities for a lot of different people because we have such diverse programs and facilities.
Thank you. Ms. Clark?
Yes, I have to second what Mike says. I think that we do have such a variety of parks, of facilities that that do provide a lot of different varying degrees of involvement for many different people. I think to be able to maintain that, I will going to some of the infrastructure issues, is to make sure that we have roads that and parking that will be available for anyone who may need ADA accommodations or other things. Part of the beach house at Gilson is going to be improve the ability of access for those who have more limited mobility. And so just looking forward, I think that we have a really strong base of providing opportunities for many, many ages and abilities, and that is part of the Park District's own mission statement, and that should be continued and will be continued as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schisler.
I think the robustness and the wide variety of offerings is one of the strengths. The number of facilities, and it feels like the facilities are utilized very extensively. Heck, even getting a room at the rec center for a kid's birthday party is sometimes difficult because people are using them, and which is not a bad thing. Great, I want people to use them. But I just want to also ensure that we have good quality programming that continues to be a draw, not only for kids, but for adults, for seniors, for everyone in our community, and maintain a strong park district. So,
thank you. Ms. Goebel.
Thank you. You know, the mission of the Park District is to provide programming and facilities for all ages, and as a commissioner and as a board, the obligation is to ensure that the operation of the Park District is supported. So really the people who work in the facilities day to day are passionate about parks, or they wouldn't be in these careers. They are bringing ideas forward all the time in terms of what is possible, in terms of what is happening in park districts around the state and around the country, sharing ideas and bringing new ideas forward. You know, I'll use the tennis facility as an example of that. You know, certainly there are leagues and lessons for children at young ages, performance and development leagues, and adult and master level leagues. But the Park District has identified that there are trends in sports, and certainly the addition of the paddle facility in West Wilmette, as well as the study of pickleball, which has been a real hit in terms of adults who have matured through tennis sports. So I think the park leadership does a wonderful job of recognizing the changes in ages and ensuring that the ongoing programming and operation reflect that.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Ms. Clark, and the topic is park priority, your park priority. And the question is, what is your number one priority for the Wilmette Park District over the next few years, and what is the biggest challenge? So your priority and the challenge.
Okay. Well, I probably, well, okay. I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record because I think my priority is infrastructure, and that takes, and also brings in the challenge, because I think the challenge that is coming up now will be with the working with the village on the stormwater retention tanks that are being installed. This is a very important subject for Wilmette residents. There's a great deal of flooding for residents on the west side that needs to be addressed. The Park District can play a role with that, and in partnering with the village to, as if anyone knows, the 3 parks will be the site of stormwater retention tanks. It's important for us to make sure that the installation of that tanks is not detrimental to the use and enjoyment of the parks where they are. So that, so I see that as one of the biggest challenges and that we have coming up in the next year.
Thank you. Mr. Schisler.
One of my biggest priorities is probably just trying to come up with programming that's desirable for the community and easy for them to get involved with, easy for them to register for, be it make our website more user-friendly and less clunky. I don't know how else to say that one. To making sure that the times are workable around people's schedules, and just working with the staff to make sure that the programming does maintain a high level. But the biggest challenge is probably making sure the same thing, making sure that it is meeting your needs, meeting the needs of all of the users, whether they're kids or adults. So,
thank you. Ms. Goebel.
Thank you. So in preparing to determine to run and to participate in the Park District, I've had the opportunity to attend a number of the meetings that the Commission and the committees do each month. And what I've learned is that there's so much work and thoughtfulness that is going into the ongoing operation. And my sense is that not all community members are aware of that work and aware of the offerings that are there. One of the things that I first encountered when I stood at the train station and asked for signatures to be added to the ballot was learning about the variance in ADA compliance and the work that the board has done to close that gap. I also learned that the addition of bike lanes is important, and I can pledge that throughout the time, if I am elected, I will focus on listening and reflecting back the needs of the community. And ensuring that there is adequate communication to share back to the community what is being decided with issues like stormwater and the ongoing changing of the beach, with changing needs of the community such as child care and kindergarten enrichment. While District 39 studies the potential of full-day kindergarten, the Park District has an opportunity to reflect and be a resource for those items.
Thank you. Mr. Murdoch.
The great thing about going last is I get to pick up a little bit from what everybody else has said. I only get to do that one out of every 4 times, but this is my time. So I absolutely clearly believe that the number one priority of the Park District is to serve the needs of our community, our members at all stages of their life, unambiguously. That being said, we do have some challenges ahead. We have some things that we're going to have to deal with. I agree with Cecilia that infrastructure is a concern, both in terms of figuring out the stormwater plan. I think the village has done tremendous work developing a plan that creates the greatest benefit for the least amount of cost, and I applaud folks like Dan Sullivan, who's still in the audience here, the trustees who did that, and I look forward to working with them on that. I already talked about the infrastructure at Gilson Park. It's important that we do it once, we do it right, and we forget about it for a generation. But as I had mentioned in my opening statement, we are probably going to see a recession in the next 4 years while we're serving, and we have to make sure that we maintain the strength of our programs through that recession. We've talked about some of the challenges with the golf course. And the other piece is that with the economy booming the way it is now, we hire a tremendous number of young people during the summers, and we're going to continue to see wage inflation, which on the one hand is great for the kids working for the Park District, but it has an impact on us as well. So I think those are all challenges that we'll face over the course of the next couple of years.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Mr. Schisler, and the topic is your preparation. And the question is, because you are all non-incumbents and the new Park District Board only has 3 returning board members, what have you done to prepare yourself to serve on the board?
Well, it's just been, I'd be lying if I said this wasn't a learning curve. I have, for one, met with every single commissioner that's currently serving. In most cases, several times. Heck, even just this week, had coffee with Steve Wilson, the director of the Parks Department, or Parks, and Amy Wolf, the president of the Parks, and really just tried to learn about all of the different needs and directions that the parks are currently going in. The other thing that I've done is I've attended almost every single committee meeting, or I should say meetings for every single committee, and really tried to do my homework. It was also kind of interesting, collecting signatures, having quite a few conversations with people while I was doing that, just to hear different perspectives from the community. So I've definitely tried to put the time and effort into it, and want to be prepared as much as I can if I'm elected.
Thank you, Ms. Goebel.
Thank you. You know, the move from private citizen to public candidate is a journey, and when I learned that there were not enough candidates to run, and I considered putting my hat in the ring, I really wanted to give thought to the commitment that's required and to the responsibility that holds when you're reflecting the needs of the community. And to help inform myself, I've studied the budget, I've studied many documents which are available, and I encourage everyone to seek those out if you're so inclined. I've had the chance to attend many committee meetings and committee of the whole so that I can understand the issues and the responsibilities of the trustees. But broadly, beyond the last 4 months or so, I have found an opportunity to draw on my past experience, whether as a young person in student government many years ago to my roles as a manager of people and as a parent, and certainly as someone who has had to make hard financial decisions and guide the needs of other boards. I am a member of the Chicago Metropolitan Battered Women's Network, and this is a group that governs direct service providers of domestic violence agencies. And so I understand the needs to work through others and also to support the decision-making that operating organizations must make. There is a role that's distinct between a board member and those who actually do the work. And as a board member, I would continue to support the thoughtful guidance of the organization.
Thank you. Mr. Murdoch?
I've been very active with the Park District for the 20 years that I've lived in Wilmette. As I had mentioned earlier, first as a parent, as a participant, as a coach. I began serving on the board in 2009. I served for 4 years. Since I stepped off the board, I've been very active with the Park District Foundation. And so I've continued to be involved very actively over the past 10 years. When I did decide to run, I did speak with all the commissioners. I consider them all to be friends and colleagues. I reached out to them. I spent a fair amount of time speaking with Steve Wilson. I spoke with some other former commissioners who I had worked with in the past to kind of get their perspectives as well. I talked with a number of current and former employees. I happened to run into Kathy Bingham not that long ago at one of the local restaurants, and we had a nice conversation and caught up about a number of different things. I also went back and I read all of the agendas and all of the minutes from the last 2 years, because when my kids are asleep, I don't really have much of a life. I just sort of, whatever. But what everybody should know is that most of the work at the Park District gets done at the committee level, more so than at the monthly public board meetings. And I, too, have attended a number of those meetings. I was at the golf committee meeting this morning before the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Clark?
Yes, as I said, when I first, a friend of mine suggested that I run, I also did somewhat due diligence, what would be required to make sure that I could give my full attention to this. And when I made the decision to run, I also started to prepare myself in that I also met with current board members as well as Steve Wilson. I have been attending the committee meetings as well as the general board meeting, and I have been. I've also tried to go to as many meet and greet situations as I can, just to ask what the public says, what their questions are, where their priorities are as well, so that I have a great deal of interest in serving with the community, and I wanted to make sure that what I do, I bring my best to this. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be the last question, and we will begin with Ms. Goebel. And we've had several questions on this topic, so the question is a yes or no, but you certainly can explain your answer. It is on the Canal Shores roadway, and the question is, do you support the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District roadway on Canal Shores?
Thank you. I think this is an important matter. As a golfer, you can imagine my perspective. However, I think that the Metropolitan Reclamation Board did not fully understand the desires of the community, and certainly their decision was contrary to the Park District Board's decision. I do not support paving a golf hole, and I do understand that the developer purchased the land recognizing that it was completely inaccessible. And so certainly the desire to change zoning is not a new concept in any community. However, this one does not seem to make sense.
Thank you. Mr. Murdoch.
Yeah, my answer is simple. No, no way, no how, never. End of story. This makes absolutely no sense. I'm done.
Okay. Ms. Clark.
Yeah, no, I don't support this. I was disappointed and pretty angry at that decision as well. But it's not, I was going to say it's not yet a done deal. Right now, if we almost have to have a little bit of a wait and see attitude, because right now it's there's a lot of the road's not built yet, and let's hopefully that it. And I don't think it will be. But no, I did not support that decision.
Okay, Mr. Schisler.
Mike already took my answer. You know what? This is kind of backdoor maneuvering, I think, by some people that were very underhanded in the way that they operated, and this is a fight that's worth fighting. This is a fight that the Park District should be involved with. That we should do everything we can to block that. I don't know of one person that lives here in Wilmette that wants to pave the 10th hole. It's amazing that this is even a discussion, quite honestly. That's actually, that's an easy one. So thank you for the easy question.
Okay, time requires that we now move to closing statements of 1 minute each. And as I stated before, we'll do it in reverse order. So Ms. Goebel, you will go first.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, certainly I want to thank the League of Women Voters and all of you for participating today and giving us this opportunity to introduce ourselves. In preparing and also considering what I might say in this conversation, parks are a part of my life. I've had the opportunity through my parents to, as a young child, learn to skate at Worth Park in Brookfield, Wisconsin. I played soccer in Brookfield as well. When we moved to St. Charles, Illinois, again, the park districts were a part of the fabric of our lives. And now as a parent, it was the first place I looked when I wanted to connect with others. I am confident that the park district will continue to be exceptional in the community and will strive to be one of the very best in the North Shore and in Illinois as a whole. I would love to be a part of that, and so I respectfully ask for your vote and support on April 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schisler.
I, too, would love your support on April 2nd, and actually even starting Monday. But you know what? I came to this not really having an agenda, meaning I'm not down with something. I don't want to change something. There's not this something that exists in the Park District that I'm upset about, or I just want it to be strong. And I just want to be able to serve the community in one more way. And that's really my motivation behind this. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Ms. Clark?
Yes, and again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring the forum. Thank you, Karen, for moderating, and thank you, everyone, for coming. I love our park district. My family and I have been visiting our parks since we moved here 26 years ago. We have played at the playgrounds, taken gymnastics classes, played soccer on the community playfields, attended summer camp, and some of my children have been lifeguards at Centennial Pool. Our parks are so important to our physical and our mental health. They help make Wilmette the wonderful place that it is. I want to continue the tradition of excellence and service that the Park District has provided to Wilmette for many of these years. So please, as I say, everyone else vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murdoch.
I, too, love the parks, and I've enjoyed serving in the past. I hope I'm given the opportunity to serve again. I've been tremendously involved in a number of local institutions around town over the years. I was involved in the reconstruction of Ronald Knox, solving some serious traffic issues while dramatically improving the learning environment for the kids there. Over the last 9 years, I've been very active at Michigan Shores, revitalizing that historic clubhouse. I've helped over 50 Wilmette families stay in their homes through my work with Rebuilding Together, and I've been involved with the Wilmette Theater Board, the Park District Foundation, and a number of other groups. Anybody who's ever known me in any of those positions knows the passion that I bring to any of those activities, and if elected, I would be honored to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Audience, would you join me in thanking the candidates for the Wilmette Park District?